Greetings everyone, I'm Maria Bregman, and you're on the iCreativities channel.
The Renaissance period was characterized by an increased interest in ancient culture, a kind of rebirth of it. That's the term first used by the Italian architect and art historian Giorgio Vasari in 1550. It was a real revolution, a period of flourishing art and culture, creativity and science. Important features of the Renaissance are humanism and anthropocentrism, celebrating the beauty of man. Humanist artists sought to reflect the individuality of each character. They carefully studied the anatomical features of the body and tried to convey the finest nuances of facial expression. Leonardo da Vinci's famous La Gioconda still amazes the world with the secret of her smile. It was then that artists began to strive to learn how to create a realistic image of people, nature, things, as well as intangible areas, feelings, emotions, moods, etc. Let us take a closer look at the periodization of Renaissance culture. Proto-Renaissance, Early Renaissance, High Renaissance, and Late Renaissance. Each of these periods has its own characteristics, reflecting development and changes in culture and art. The Proto-Renaissance covers the late 13th and early 14th centuries and is closely related to the Middle Ages. In fact, it originated in the late Middle Ages with Byzantine, Romanesque and Gothic traditions. This period was the precursor of the Renaissance. At the end of the 13th century, the most important temple in Florence was built, the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore, designed by Arnolfo da Cambio and continued by Giotto, who designed the bell tower of Florence Cathedral. Giotto de Bondone is one of the most important founders of the Proto-Renaissance in Western culture. He succeeded in reconfiguring an entire movement in icon painting, breaking with the Byzantine school and establishing his own direction. Pietro Cavallini worked on a fresco in the Church of San Paolo fuori la Mura, based on scenes from the Old and New Testaments. The frescoes were destroyed by fire in 1823, but copies survived. In 1291, the artist created a cycle of mosaics in the Church of Santa Maria in Trastevere. Cavallini's most famous works are the frescoes he painted around 1293 for the Church of Santa Cecilia in Trastevere. Ceni da Peppo Cimabue created the altarpiece Madonna and Child with Angels for the Church of Santa Trinita in Florence. This composition was an original model for prayer and religious contemplation. After numerous works, the artist was no longer called Byzantine, but novelty. Brightness and volume could be traced in it. Religion and religious motifs are present in the works of the Proto-Renaissance masters. Thinkers, poets, and theologians also made a great leap in their activities during the Renaissance. At first, Byzantine art and the new movement were closely intertwined. Dante Alighieri is considered the last poet of the Middle Ages and the first poet of the Proto-Renaissance. The 15th century in Italy was marked by the transition to the early Renaissance period, characterized by the emergence and rise of various territorial schools of art, their active interaction and struggle. In the culture of this period, a cult of beauty, especially human beauty, was born. Painting became a leading art form, and artists strove to depict beautiful, perfect human beings. Masaccio became the founder of a new direction in 15th century Italian painting. He revived the traditions of Giotto, abandoning the verbosity characteristic of painting at the end of the 14th and beginning of the 15th centuries. Masaccio's individual artistic style is most clearly expressed in his fresco The Trinity. The Italian painter Sandro Botticelli made a significant contribution to early Renaissance art. His work is characterized by an appeal to the inner world of his figures, their moods and experiences. His most famous paintings are Spring and the Birth of Venus. The most famous poet of the early Renaissance and a figure of humanism was the Italian Francesco Petrarca. During his lifetime, he was famous, respected, and even carried out diplomatic missions. For his work, he was crowned with a laurel wreath at a gala in Rome and given the title King of Poets. The founder of the individual sculptural portrait was the Italian master Donatello. The images he created embodied humanist ideas of the ideal, fully developed human being. Donatello's most famous works include the bronze sculpture of David and the 2-meter-high bronze statue of St. George. The High Renaissance took place in the late 15th and early 16th centuries. It was a golden age of art, literature, and science, when such outstanding figures as Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, and others flourished. European Renaissance culture reached its apotheosis during the High Renaissance, when magnificent works of sculpture and painting were created and entered the world's treasure trove of art. Antiquity was now studied more thoroughly, reproduced with greater rigor and consistency. Serenity and dignity replaced the playful beauty that had been the aspiration of the previous period. The memory of the Middle Ages disappeared completely, and a completely classical imprint fell on all artistic creations. However, the imitation of the ancients did not drown out the independence of the artists, and with great ingenuity and imagination they freely reworked and applied to their work what they considered appropriate to borrow from ancient Greco-Roman art. Leonardo da Vinci (1450 to 1519) occupies a special place among the geniuses of the Renaissance. He was an artist, poet, physicist, mathematician, inventor of aeroplanes and underwater vehicles. His most famous paintings are Mona Lisa, whose mysterious smile still captivates art connoisseurs, and The Last Supper. The late Renaissance lasted from 1530 to 1590 to 1620. In European art of this period, disillusionment with Renaissance ideals and ideas of natural harmony and beauty found expression in Mannerism. Following in the footsteps of the masters of the High Renaissance, Mannerists such as the painters Pontormo, Parmigianino, Bronzino, and the sculptors Cellini and Giambologna asserted the instability, the tragic dissonances of existence, the power of irrational forces, and the subjectivity of art. The works of the Mannerists are characterized by their complexity, the intensity of their imagery, the mannered refinement of their forms, and their often sharp artistic solutions. Giulio Romano's monumental cycles are dominated by ingenious solutions, rich in grotesque ornamentation. In the sculpture of Benvenuto Cellini and Giambologna, and in the architecture of Giulio Romano, Vasari, and Ammanati, Mannerism manifested itself above all in a tendency towards unstable, dynamic composition, emphasizing the expressiveness of decoration. Mannerist art has often been described as courtly. Some of its characteristics were intended for a small circle of experts who understood complex allegories and allusions. At the end of the 16th century, beginning of the 17th century, Mannerism gave way to the influence of the Bolognese school and Caravagism. The Renaissance left us with many vibrant and meaningful works of art that continue to inspire and delight us today. The Renaissance is a period of global significance in the cultural history of Europe, as it was a time of real revival in all kinds of activities. Thank you for your attention.